Want to make this quick video on how I quickly troubleshoot older LCD TVs that I receive. I place ads on the internet advertising that I'm a recycle. I recycle computers and older LCD TVs. I don't recycle the tube style, the old CRT. This one did not work. It would power on real quick, the green light would turn on and for like a second or two, and then it wouldn't work. I've had this success with multiple LCD TVs, and I'm going to show you quickly what I do to try to quickly rectify that situation. This is a Dynex. It's 8 years old. If you look at the label, it's a LCD color TV model DX-LCD37-09, and it was manufactured, you should be able to see that, May of 2008. So it's 8 years old. It didn't come with a remote. I should have asked, but a lot of times I don't even ask. As you can see, it's got all kinds of connections. Now, you want to take all the screws out. There's quite a few screws. If you let me zoom out, you can see all the holes for the screws all the way around, and then even in the middle. You want to make sure you take out all the screws first so that you don't break the cover. It's usually pretty self-explanatory. Here's the screws. There's two different types. All I needed was a Phillips and then a small flathead in case I have to pry out the screws. Sometimes some of these holes are kind of large, and even when you unloosen them, they kind of sit down there and they're hard to grab. And that's all I did. Now, I take the cover off. This one was easy. The cover came right off. I usually lay them flat. This one, they all get, when I took these three out on right there, then the cover, since it was kind of angled, then the cover popped off, and I knew I didn't have to touch anything, so I knew the cover was already loose. Then you just take the cover off, and then bam, you have the guts. Now you want to be careful. I never touch capacitors. You don't want to touch capacitors, especially on a TV that has been plugged in recently. So you want to be careful what you touch. And what I unplug are these power cables. You notice this yellow one right here? Right here. I unplugged that one. You see the three red ones? Right there. There's 1, 2, and then a small third one near the capacitors. They're small, but I unplugged them. And then I unplugged this power cable right here, this black and white one that connects to the two boards. And then I disconnected this other power. This is probably power between the two boards. And that was it as far as power cables. Then a lot of times I also disconnect the video cables. These are video cables. You see all of them? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I disconnected all of them. Then I was working on a customer's computer, and so I attended to that, plus I attended to something on the internet. And so I gave it 5 or 10 minutes. I usually do that, or I'll just, it doesn't really matter, as long as it's a few minutes. Another thing I do, now when I first get these TVs, before opening up the cover and disconnecting cables, is I will hold the power button. Sometimes it's just an electrostatic discharge, ESD. There's this power button right here, right there. I hold it in, I press it and hold it in for like a minute, and I unplug the power before I even plug the power in. Sometimes that will clear the ESD. Then I'll try to turn it on. If it doesn't turn on, I might try it a couple times. Then I take the covers off. Even after I unplug all these cables, I still press the, there's somebody in this office, but in this building, but I still press in the power for like a minute, even with all the cables unplugged. Then I let it sit for a few, however long. Doesn't really matter as long as it's longer than a few minutes. And then I plug all those power cables back in, and even these video cables. Now these TVs are quite similar. A lot of them have backlight. They'll have a backlight board, or they'll have a power board, and then they'll have video boards. And I don't mess with those initially. I just reset the cables, and then I will show you. I'm going to just for now I'm just gonna lightly prop it up, and we'll do this. And I should have probably had this better organized, but that's okay. I just wanna now, if you look at it, before it would turn the power on, light would turn on for like a second. Now if I hit the power button on the side, you see it's green. You see where it says power on, it's green. Before it would flash for about a second or two, and then the standby light would turn on, which was red. Now on the screen you can see it says HDMI. And so I know this TV works now. You can go into the menu. You see? See, the menu works now. And then it'll go back to HDMI. But as long as that power on is lit and the standby isn't lit, and then I can turn it off, and see how it goes back to standby, which it should be because I don't have the power on. I'll turn the power back on, and then it does this little blinking for a few seconds, and then it says please wait, and then up here it'll have HDMI, and that's it. The TV works. Now I can hook it up to a computer or a cable or whatever, and it's HD TV with HDMI and 720. Some of the newer ones I will resell, even the older ones I will resell, but I've rectified quite a few LCD TVs doing this by just resetting. Let me turn the power off. All I do is just look for these types of connections, power cables, or power cables from one board to another, and then the video cables. Sometimes resetting those, but I do them all, and quite often I'm able to get these to work. Now if they're newer, I will go and I will Google the model, and I will see how much these boards, because sometimes it's a backlight board, or maybe that's kind of like a video board right there, over there, but usually a lot of time, or the power board will go bad, or the backlight. But if they're too expensive, then they're not worth it. But adios.